The following contains spoilers for Final Destination Bloodlines. Now playing in theaters, Final Destination Bloodlines confirms which characters successfully escaped death's plans. At the heart of the Final Destination series is the idea that death becomes furious when people escape their intended fates. As a result, death works its way through the unintended survivors of any mass casualty event and dispatches them in creatively gruesome ways. This has led to the deaths of almost every named character in the series, with even the typical final girl archetypes failing to make it all the way to the credits. This carries on into the ending of Final Destination Bloodlines, which reveals that Death's efforts to wipe out the survivors of an intended catastrophe have led to the demise of almost everyone in its path. However, Tony Todd's William Bloodworth confirms that at least one character from a previous film did successfully escape Death's machinations. This raises some serious questions, including the fate of another potential survivor and what it could mean for the future of the Final Destination series. Final Destination Bloodlines confirms that Kimberly Corman and Thomas Burke's efforts to escape death in Final Destination 2 did work, setting up the latter half of Final Destination Bloodlines. After finally convincing her surviving relatives that they are indeed being targeted by death, Stefani leads them to find JB, who turns out to be William Bloodworth. Bloodworth explains how his previous appearances in the series have been connected to the research he and Iris were conducting on death, and how it's taught him the rules that govern death's approach to collecting people. In these notes is a reference to Kimberly Corman. Bloodworth reveals she not only escaped death, but is also seemingly still alive. He explains that she is the proof that embracing death and then being resuscitated can break death's design. This convinces Stefani and her family that they could similarly escape their fate. Unfortunately, a botched attempt to save Bobby ends up getting him and Eric killed. Likewise, Stefani almost drowns but is saved by her brother, only for the pair to realize too late that she didn't technically die, and they are therefore still on death's list. Kimberly Corman was the protagonist of Final Destination 2, having a premonition of the highway pileup that would have killed her and several others, which leads to their temporary survival. Kimberly is the one to realize what Bloodworth means when he says the only way to defeat death is with life, allowing her to break the chain before it can kill her and the last of her fellow survivors, Thomas Burke. Kimberly does this by driving into a lake and allowing herself to drown, only to then be resuscitated by Dr. Kalarjan. Thomas Burke didn't go through something similar, but Kimberly breaking the thread is implied to have thrown off Death's plans enough that Burke also gets to survive. This proves that Bloodworth's advice on how to survive is accurate, proving that it is possible to escape Death's grasp. However, the very specific circumstances of that survival make it very hard to replicate, and Bloodworth explains that attempting this course of action and failing can result in Death taking things personally, leading to the very brutal deaths of Eric and Bobby. Final Destination Bloodlines confirms that Kimberly Corman is actually still alive, proving that escaping Death's machinations can lead to decades' worth of new life. However, this is only possible because the initial plans for Final Destination 3 would have killed Kimberly and Thomas off. Deleted scenes from Final Destination 3 would have revealed that Kimberly and Burke were later killed when Death arranged it so that the pair fell into a woodchipper. For years, many fans took this deleted scene as canon, effectively writing off the two as eventual victims of death, even if their fates weren't confirmed on screen. However, Final Death Bloodlines makes Kimberly's survival one of the most important moments in the franchise, as it proves that Death's plans can be fully countered under the right circumstances. This contradicts the deleted scene, seemingly proving that Kimberly did successfully escape death. The most important result of Kimberly's survival is the confirmation that there is a way to counter death in the Final Destination series. While killing someone and claiming their remaining time was already codified into the franchise as a foundational rule, Being brought back after actual death has now been confirmed as the best means to escape death's designs.